Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to discuss Chapter 2, where we're looking at the entrepreneurial journey and the pathways. But before we get into that, I wanted to work on some mindset here. I think mindset is incredibly important. And a lot of times, entrepreneurship, while it is competitive, and you should definitely have a competitive nature, it's important to differentiate between success and excellence. Success is you or your business's success versus other organizations or other individuals. Let's talk about it on a personal level. So your success comes at the expense of other people's failure. Got to be very careful there. When both in terms of hurting others and hurting ourselves. When we focus on just success, me versus you or you versus someone else, it sometimes loses motivation, it loses civility, and it loses fulfillment for you. Success is you versus someone else. That's really an uneven scale. My success scale might be on a scale of 1 to 12, and yours is 1 to 5, and someone over there is 1 to 10. And it's hard to compare yourself with others. And I really, as an entrepreneur, would encourage you not to do that. I would ask you to be the very best version of you. So maximize your own potential. That is excellence. So focus on excellence over success. Don't compare yourself to everybody else. Compare yourself to yourself. Could you have tried harder on that exam? Could you have put in more effort in the reading? Could you have possibly sold more product? That type of thing. That's excellence. And what you will find is over time, if you pursue excellence, you do become a much better version of yourself. Are you spending quiet time in your Bible? Are you going to bed early so you're getting rest? Are you doing the reading? Are you getting out and pursuing being physically fit? That has nothing to do with anyone else. That has to do with you in the mirror. So I would say as a part of your pathway, as a part of your journey, is to keep excellence in mind and at the forefront of your objectives as opposed to success. So let's get started. The Chapter 2, again, on entrepreneurial journey and pathways, we're basically looking at continue to establish not only that knowledge baseline, but start to give you some tools, start to equip you so you can go along your journey. It really is like a trip. So are you ready? What's some first steps that you can take here? Is there a venture you've always thought you should start but never did? Again, entrepreneurship's all about passion. So is there something you're passionate about? Do you love baking? Do you love helping homeless people? Do you love helping people get physically fit? Then you should start a business around those things. Okay, and you absolutely can. And I'm here to tell you, you're going to see it through if you're more passionate. You're going to find a way. So think about what factors are stopping you. Is it fear? Is it inexperience? I can hear you tell you, you're going to, that's why courage exists. Courage is being afraid, but doing it anyway. All right. So be courageous. All right. Consider your mindset and how you might change your mindset so that the venture could become reality. Self-talk is very, very important here. In terms of giving yourself a chance, talk with yourself positively. Say, you know what? I stink at mathematics. That's pretty defeatist mindset. A positive growth mindset would be, you know what? I struggle with mathematics, but I could be better. So here are my goals. Here's what I'm going to do to get better at it. The same thing with entrepreneurship. Okay, I have I don't know enough about cash flow, and but I'm going to spend some time trying to get that down and get better at it. That's mindset. So pay close attention to a growth mindset, not a closed mindset. What are some possible trigger events that can make the difference between starting your venture and waiting to start your venture? A lot of people say, I'm just not ready yet. Listen, we're going to talk about something here called minimum viable product from Eric Ries in a future chapter. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have a product that's perfect in terms of a product or a service. You can get started tomorrow with very little money. You can bootstrap it. You can do it yourself. Do it on a very small scale. I really encourage you to go ahead and get started because entrepreneurship is all about experience and learning from your failures. And if you don't get out there and fail, if you don't have any experiences, you don't learn. All right, so there's a neat little metaphor between hiking and the entrepreneurial journey. And it really is a journey. We're going to take a road trip here in a minute. Here we have 3 different types of walkers. This is straight out of your book, Table 2.1. 3 different types of hikers, that is. The first is not very experienced as a walker. It's basic limited hiking experience, a climber, some experience, some special skills, and then a mountaineer, a real pro. Someone who's experienced at hiking, has technical skills, can do it all. Well, guess what? That mirrors. A lot of us are going to start out as walkers. And I'm saying us because there's a lot of things that I'm a walker in. There's some things I'm a climber, very little things I'm a mountaineer, but I'm working on it. Entrepreneurial journey equivalent, so as an entrepreneur to a walker, is someone who's new or limited. They don't have a ton of entrepreneurial exposure, and they've never started a new venture. Man, are you in for some fun. A climber is someone who has some knowledge and some exposure to entrepreneurship. Maybe you grew up on in a family business, or you have a good friend who's running their own business, so you see a little bit behind the scenes. So you're kind of intermediate. You're like, hey, real people do this. That's great. You're a climber. Mountaineer is someone who's an experienced entrepreneur. How does a walker become a climber? How do they become a mountaineer? Experience, attempts, failure, and learning from failure. Okay? So, road trip. The book talks a little bit about, hey, people graduate, they don't know what to do, they go out and get a job, but then they never grow into entrepreneurs. They might want to be entrepreneurs right off the start, but they don't have a clue how to do it. That's why this course exists. You need to treat this journey like a road trip, and you don't just get in your car and drive aimlessly. All right, you look ahead, you Google it, you figure out where you want to go. You find some restaurants you might want to eat at. You make some hotel reservations. You say, hey, on this day we're going to drive this far. On this day we're going to drive this far. We're going to end up on the other side of the country in this many days. Okay, you have a plan. It's no different than entrepreneurship. All right. So there's several different stages, I think 5 or 6 here, and we're going to start to talk about, hey, I have an inspiration to do something. And you say, hey, do I have the mental, physical, or psychological, or financial capabilities and support system to launch this venture? Chances are you're going to say no. Okay, but that's a problem. You're an entrepreneur. You have to start seeking solutions. So potential obstacles up front are self-doubt. I could never actually do that. Fear of the unknown, limited time and resources, or personal connections. You're like, man, I just don't know anybody in this industry. That's what networking's for. Okay, you can learn as you go. You can pick up those things as you go along. All right. Preparation. So we had inspiration and we got preparation. You're preparing to do it. You put something on paper. What do I want to accomplish now and in the future? What can I create? Can I impact the world? Is there a better way to solve this problem or address an issue? Can I make it better? What are conditions? What's my market? How many customers I'm going to have? What's the political environment, the economic environment, so on. Here's where your doubts come in. All right, makes you want to leave. All right. Lack of ideas or inspiration. Sometimes you have to have some creative tools. We're going to give you some of those in this course. Oh man, that idea already exists. But if you remember in chapter 1, we talked about most entrepreneurial ideas are actually an extension of existing ideas or doing it a different way. A big thing, and I'm guilty of this, is you think everything's got to be perfect right out of the bat. And that's one of the most powerful things I've ever learned is you can have a minimum viable product. You can have something that's imperfect. But if you put it in front of a customer and they say, nah, that's terrible, it needs to be this, well, guess what? You can go do this and make it better and it's more attractive. You need to get that feedback immediately. Feedback's so important. Fear of risk. I might lose money. I guarantee you're going to lose money. Okay, you're going to fail. All right. It's just, are you going to fail spectacularly or are you going to fail in a trial test sense in that you're going to try it? And you're going to do it in the minimum viable product, MVP, and learn as you go and make it stronger and stronger and get feedback. Being too practical and too logical. Sometimes people are way too practical, way too logical to be entrepreneurs. I'm here to tell you, it's a risk-taking venture. And if you're not okay with the risk, you may want to reassess being an entrepreneur. That said, highly encourage you to get in here. The water is fine. Entrepreneurship is so exciting. You live just on this high from day to day. It's fun. You get to be your own boss, which only means you get to pick which out of the 24 hours you're going to work in a day, which means you're going to work all 25. I did say 25. All right. Assessment. So once you started to actually do a few things, you're assessing the business idea, the elementary business, the early on business. Can I find partners? Where are my customers? What location should I use? What key resources do I need? Who can help me achieve my goals and maintain a healthy business? All right. That's a lot of that mentors we talked about in chapter 1. Some potential obstacles here is limited connections. You just got to get out there and make connections. Okay. Partners without skills or resources that match your needs and goals. Okay. A lot of times people will say, hey, I'm going to go into business with my friend, but you're both really good at like sales and neither one of you are good at bookkeeping. You need a business partner that shores up your own weaknesses. So know your strengths. We did that in chapter 1. And find people who can shore up those weaknesses. And then, I got limited education experience. Listen, we're taking care of the education here. I'm going to try to give you some experience as well. But there's nothing like actual experience, getting out there and handing out your business card and doing your thing. Those of you that have been in Truck Club, been on trips with me, Entrepreneurship Club, it's called Truck Club. You've always heard me ask if we had a guest speaker or we took a trip, Charleston, Charlotte, New York, wherever it was. I've always, towards the end of the conversation, said, hey, tell me this. Most people are very educated. Some people are straight out of high school. It doesn't matter. Did you learn more in school or in the first 2 weeks of starting your business? And without fail. And these are people, some of them have PhDs. And without fail, they said the first 2 weeks in business. You will learn by doing, but you have to get out there and do it. All right. Trial run. This is where you're practicing. You're maybe offering that minimum viable product. You're seeing what's happening. Reflection questions include, how can I afford to achieve my goal and maintain my financial status once I get there? Most entrepreneurs are working somewhere else and they start this business on the side. That's why they call it side hustle. Potential obstacles, limited or little access to appropriate adequate capital. It means you don't have enough startup funds. Start small. Do it small. A lot of people start on like Etsy when they're making art or small products. They start on Etsy and they end up with a full-blown store on Amazon or their own site. Or selling in Walmart, wherever. Limited or few connections to obtain capital. That's going to be a challenge. The number one challenge to entrepreneurship, beyond getting over your own fear, is actually funding your venture. Limited negotiation experience or knowledge, you'll get better at it. All right? Everything's experience. And when it comes time to do a business plan, hey, you're going to do that in here. Reflection questions. How can I imagine or juggle the related operational and administrative responsibilities of the venture, i.e., can I do this alone? And at first you may have to, but you won't be able to do it for long. Okay, you won't be able to answer the phones, make the product, do everything you have to have. You're going to have some help, and you need to have a plan. What timeline are you going to start to add this help, ideally? How quickly or slowly should I grow this venture? All right, you try to blow up too quick, you sink a bunch of capital, you might not have the response you were looking for. Versus if you offer too little, you might have excess demand and people start to wander and go to other areas looking for your product. Potential obstacles, limited experience and knowledge. We're working on that in here. Limited access to resources and a support system. Again, find mentors that are doing something similar to what you want to do, and you will be so impressed about how much they're willing to share with you. It's incredible. All right. So how do we navigate these waters? All right. So now you're in business. You're trying to find your way around. How should I prepare for a deal with potential obstacles or challenges, such as having no money or solid business idea? These are contingencies that you need to spell out in your business plan. What are some alternative routes to achieve my goals? So if X happens, I'm going to do Y. All right. Limited outlook for appropriate strategies and goals and opportunities. This is what I like calling being kind of prisoner of the moment. All you can do is look down on your path and see what's right in front of you, but you can't look out like 2 months even, much less 2 years. Entrepreneurship's all about having that vision. So if you find yourself just stumbling and just discouraged, go back to that vision statement. All right. Hopefully it will inspire you to get moving. All right. Are you always going to have the answers? Absolutely not. But that's it. In this course, I'm trying to model mentorship for you. That's why we have that one-on-one connection where we can talk and I can help you through your problems as well. I'm serving as a mentor. Now I want you to go out and find other people to mentor as well. All right. So products, services, work, and life cycles. New venture life cycles. There's kind of things that are like the pre-seed early idea development. That's the things that are in your head right now. And then they have the early stage of, hey, here's how we can implement it. Maybe we have growth, and then we can pursue in the early stage to some maturity. All right, this is when you got a product launched and you're getting out there in the late stage where you either have to find new ways to grow, or your product life cycle, we'll talk about here in a second, is going to decline. All right, so nothing earth-shattering there. Business life cycle. Some of you guys have seen this in business management. You have a vertical axis with sales, horizontal axis with time, very similar to economics. You have basically a bell curve, okay? And down here at the end, there's a couple different options. You have a startup, okay? Low sales, not much time in there. You have a launch. You hope to see progressive growth. All right, into the growth phase, or you're continuing to an upward. So here you have startup, not a lot of growth. Launch is a bit of a rocket up. Growth is continuing to this peak, and then you have maturity, which is the peak. And then you start to harvest. This is where you're collecting your just reward for starting this business. Perhaps you exit. You could sell to another company. That's one thing. You need to have your exit strategy. You need to figure out what's your end game. Are you looking to just make a bunch of money and then get out? Or are you looking to have this for your grandchildren and their children to be able to run? The thing is business life cycles always peak. They always go up. They always peak, and they start to come down. Now, this is either an exit, the business closes, or you sell it off, or you find a way to rebrand, rebirth. Okay? You roll with the times. You're Apple, and they had the iPod. Okay? And no one has an iPod now because the iPhone has that covered. Well, they rebranded and rebirthed and put everything compact and got to the iPhone, and now that's kind of carrying them, and eventually they're going to have to do something else to reinvent themselves. Now, the business life cycle overlaid with the entrepreneurial kind of experience here of startup, launch, growth, maturity, harvest, rebirth. You see the business life cycle here. You still have the bell curve with the potential for exit or rebirth. So at startup, you're at this is where you guys are right now. You're at pre-launch, your discovery, research, define the opportunity. You're going to get some conception of the idea, solidify the idea and the opportunity, and build a test model. Business, you want to do really, really well in this class, find a way to test your business plan. And then you're trying to find resources, building support, a team, plan, and gather other resources. Is there a grant out there that I can utilize? For example, you can look at the Small Business Administration, which we'll talk about in this class, has a grant for women and minority business owners. Or if you're watching this video and you're a woman, or you're a minority, or you're a woman and a minority, that's a resource that you could potentially use. You have to have a solid business plan to be able to get that grant. Now, the difference between a grant alone is grant, you don't have to pay it back. All right, so if you're eligible for something like that, you're building the resources. Into launch, you have small market. You test, you monitor, you feedback, you tweak. You have growth. Once you've gotten out of launch phase, you're like, hey, this really works. Let's scale it. All right, let's serve the entire upstate. You continue to test and monitor. Then you move into maturity. You're like, all right, this is really, really growing. We're doing well. Let's reap some of this return. It's time to take a trip to Disney World or whatnot. Harvest, you start to plan for the future. What's your exit strategy? What is my return on investment? What am I trying to get out of here? Do I want to have this for years and years, or am I trying to get out of it? Who could potentially take it over for me? Then you have to go through, instead of, if you don't want to decline and exit, all right, and moving on to another opportunity, you have to find a way to rebirth, okay? Redesign and create a new venture. How do you move on to the next thing? How do you continue to innovate? So, a few models that help. The first one is the business model canvas. You guys are going to have a separate video to watch on this, either this week or the coming weeks. The business model canvas is literally this form you see right here in terms of layout. It's kind of, some people say out of order, but really you start here. What's the value proposition you have for a customer? And how does that customer relationship come about? What channels do you use to get it to your customers? And what segments are we serving? What are your key activities? What are your key resources? Who are your key partners? All right. What's your cost structure and what's your revenue streams? All right. If your cost structure is so massive, your revenue streams can't match it, we have a problem. Okay. If you have an incredible value proposition and a good customer relationship, but no way to get it to your customer segments through your channels, you got a problem. All right. But that's okay. We're entrepreneurs. We're problem solvers. All right. What are your key activities? Meaning, you can get caught up doing so many things that you don't do the things you need to do. I'm terrible about that. I'll do, I got all these little things, and I got like 3 big things I need to do. One of today, of course, was recording this video, and I was doing some time, spending on other stuff. Okay? Just get over here and record the video, Kiesler, right? Same thing with an entrepreneur is do the key activities. Who are your key partners? That's where we can build some resources. So the business model canvas, very, very important. It's going to be a blank form in Brightspace for you to be able to use and reference and use in your business idea. We'll have a discussion around that. Now, the lean model canvas, same kind of thing, just pared down a little bit. Again, the value proposition, the customer relationships, the channels, the customer segments, costs and revenues. But it focuses on what are the problems, what are the solutions, and how are you going to measure if those solutions address the problems? All right, so you need some metrics. What are your goals? Are your goals to have 100 sales by the end of the month? That could be a metric. This problem, how can you solve it with a value to the customer? All right, so this form, the business model canvas and the lean model canvas, allows you to put on paper what you think is going to address a potential problem for a customer that you can take advantage of in a good way, an entrepreneurial way. And we're going to have a discussion around this, and I would challenge you guys. Number 1, your initial post is due by Wednesday. Number 2, I want you to comment on your classmates, at least 2, in a substantive manner. Not say, hey, that looks great. That's not substantive. Offer some feedback, because the feedback in entrepreneurship, the feedback loop is incredibly important. All right, so we're all going to go through the design thinking process. It's a bit of a Venn with a circular flow here. Design thinking generally begins when you empathize with someone. You find a problem, you say, man, I really wish I could offer that solution. You define the problem, you ideate potential solutions, and then you prototype those solutions. What might they look like? Test them, all right, get feedback, and then you go through the cycle again, all right? Once you've designed it, then you can move into the business planning stage. All right, so a few frameworks that can help. We've covered the business model canvas and the lean startup. The lean startup, again, is a reference to Eric Ries, minimum viable product. We're going to have some information on that coming. Design thinking process, where you systematically outline, hey, this is a problem, this is why it's a problem, this is a potential solution. Let me test that solution and see how it helps people that I'm empathizing with. 4 lenses strategic framework. We haven't spent a lot of time on it. It's in the reading, but a practitioner-driven model that considers 4 perspectives to support and develop client-focused ecosystems, basically identifying a problem and getting into your potential end-user shoes to get some more information. Vision or dream board, a visual tool to present ideal situation that you're working towards achieving. I want you to read about wireframing, storyboard, and you know the difference between these two. Mind map, we're going to talk about here in a second. We all know the hypothesis is a proposition statement based on that needs further testing. So you can say, hey, this is the problem. I think this could be the solution. Let's test it and see if it actually has a result that does solve the problem. Generally speaking, you have to interview people to get that back. A logic map, visual representation of relationship between various components. You can get questionnaires, so on and so forth. One of my favorite tools is mind mapping. You take a central idea, like a disaster action plan, and say, hey, well, disaster could be a tornado, a hurricane, volcano, flood, forest fire, earthquake. We're going to have a supplemental lecture on mind mapping as we move forward. But what can we do to have a disaster action plan? Well, we can develop a recovery plan. We can assess the action plan results, monitor recovery efforts, create a recovery timeline, designate delivery methods, research resources, and identify solutions. Basically a mind map. Take a problem, put it in the middle of a piece of paper as a circle, start drawing solutions that you could potentially offer. One of the mind maps we've done here on campus for a long time is after hours dining. And so in the middle of that mind map, we'd put, there's nowhere to eat after hours. And I'd draw a line and say, okay, what's one of the things? Well, we could sell prepackaged food from another vendor. That would be an offshoot of this. And then offshoot of prepackaged food from another vendor would be Chick-fil-A, Taco Bell, all these things. And then when we put another line and say, hey, we could deliver it. And basically, you start mapping everything in your head as a problem and potential solutions on a piece of paper. And what you'll find is it balloons out. You get all the ideas out of your head and onto paper. Important thing to keep in mind in the creative process is there's no bad ideas. Okay, there's no bad ideas in a creative process. And a mind map is a great way. Just take a piece of paper or dry erase and map out what you want to do. All right. So what I want you to do now is read chapter 2, spend some time learning about these models and frameworks so they can guide you along this entrepreneurial trip. But what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to try this. I'm in my home office recording this. Okay, you guys are getting to see a little bit more than you bargained for. I'm going to move a book. Oh, set the camera down. I'm going to draw the mind map real quick. All right, just so you guys can see it. All right, so food at night. All right, we're mind mapping. Fast food delivery. All right, Hub City delivery. But they can't get in the dorms. RAs can. Do we have any students that are RAs? Okay, that could deliver food at night. All right. What about if people wanted a healthy option? I have a lot of athletes, a lot of people that want a healthy option. All right. Do we offer prepackaged? Question mark. We can do salads. Perhaps the prepackaged can come out of Judd Cellar. All right, and they could offer salads, and we could sell those after hours. Okay. Food at night. The original problem right here. Do we take flex points? All right. What machine do we need to do that? Okay. Let's see here. What else? Do we do theme nights? So if you're going to offer food at night, do we do theme nights? You could have Taco Tuesday. You could tie that to Taco Bell. All right. Theme nights, you could have Friday night movie night. You could have food like hot dogs, nachos, popcorn. Do we partner this with student development and see if they want to show movies, of which we sell food? Mind mapping. Mind mapping, okay? You start to put all this together, you circle it around, doggone it, thing starts looking like a brain. All right? So a little bit of learning on the fly. Forgive me for moving the camera, but I wanted to come over here to the dry erase board to show you what our mind map really could be. We could do this for hours. I'm going to ask you to do it for a discussion, but a little later, look at the calendar to see how all this is due. We actually spent an entire chapter on creativity. This is just chapter 2. I think it's like chapter 4, maybe 5. We look at creative exercise and we do mind mapping there as well. So you're getting a little bit of a preview on that. Hope you've enjoyed the lecture. I'll talk to you next time.